Hello everybody and welcome to Insider's Guide. Today we're continuing our discussion about the Aspen of Switzerland, St. Moritz. With several different mountains encompassing the larger St. Moritz area, this video will be split into 3 parts. For this video, we'll be talking about Corvatsch specifically. We discussed Dia Valletta La Galbe in the first part, and we'll work through Corviglia in the final part. So with that, let's begin an Insider's Guide to Ski Resorts, Corvatsch. We'll now shift gears over to Corvatsch, which is located on the other side of the valley from Corviglia and the town of St. Moritz. While I did think Dia Valletta and La Galbe are more unique, Corvatsch is another excellent mountain in the larger St. Moritz area. Corvatsch is, in my opinion, the most well-rounded ski resort in St. Moritz, and is exemplary of all the things that make St. Moritz legendary. Great snow quality, fantastic groomers, insane off-piste skiing, beautiful views, options for every ability, it really has it all. In addition, despite being very close to St. Moritz proper, I never noticed Corvatsch to get that bad of lines, especially when compared to its neighbor Corviglia. Another major positive to Corvatsch is that the mountain almost entirely faces north, which usually means that the snow quality here is pretty good. The only real downside with Corvatsch is that some of its lift infrastructure is a bit frustrating. There are several T-bars and slow lifts across the resort, and there's typically no operator to help you load the T-bar, which can make getting on a bit challenging if you've never done it before. Corvatsch has 2 base areas, one at Surlay and one at Vercelles. If you're taking the bus or driving in, I'd recommend starting your day at Surlay as you end up a bit higher on the mountain than if you were to start your day at Vercelles. Let's take a look at the Surlay base. At the bottom, you will have a small plateau that services this bunny hill, which is perfect for learning. All other visitors will be required to take this tram, but luckily lines don't ever get too bad. The tram gets you a decent ways up the mountain, and you arrive at this mid-station at Mertel. From here you have a few options. If you go looker's left, you can access this fixed grip quad, Mandras. It services this terrain park and this short beginner piste, number 6. The terrain park under this lift is surprisingly good, and I was pretty amazed at how big some of the jumps were. Although I mentioned Corvatsch's favorable aspect earlier on, I found snow quality in this part of the mountain specifically to be a bit worse than everywhere else at Corvatsch. From the number 6 trail, you can head skiers left to access the number 7 and number 8 trails, both excellent steep early morning cruisers. These 2 trails are serviced by a T-bar, which, as we'll see, are used all over the mountain. This T-bar specifically doesn't open until a bit later into the season because of the rocky footprint. Just below the T-bar is Giandalva, a fixed double which services 2 trails, number 4 and number 5. Number 4 is your standard red cruiser, although a touch short for my liking. Number 5 is a really long run that goes all the way down to this bus stop over here. As you'd probably expect, you have to take the bus or train here to return back to the ski resort, so I wouldn't really recommend doing number 5 more than once. It is, however, a great end-of-day run. In general, this is probably my least favorite part of Corvatsch, so I certainly wouldn't prioritize it over the areas further lookers right on the mountain. Moving back to Mertel, the tram has a completely separate second stage that takes you all the way to the high point of the resort. If you're looking for some absolutely ridiculous freeride terrain, the faces under the tram are the places to be. As always, make sure to check the AVI forecast and carry all the right gear before venturing anywhere off-piste. Other than all the wicked off-piste extremes, the tram services a handful of red pistes. These are all great classic cruisers that wind down this extremely steep part of the mountain. Both number 1 and number 3 are great and worth doing individually, although I slightly prefer number 3. At this intersection of number 2 and number 1A, I strongly prefer taking number 2 since number 1A becomes an extremely narrow bottleneck between 2 cliff bands and can get super scraped off and icy. However, both number 3 and number 2 will not be open in the earliest parts of the season, and in that case, you'll be forced to ski number 1A, so be sure to regulate your speed. Moving back down to Mertel, I'm going to group and talk about these next 4 runs together, number 9, number 10A, number 11, and number 12. Even though these are some of the busiest runs at the resort, they are also some of the best red cruisers not just at Corvatsch, but across all of the St. Moritz Mountains. They flow incredibly well, maintain their pitch, have great snow quality, and are nice and wide open. I love all of them, and they're absolutely worth doing individually, so feel free to spend some time here. Be warned that the very top of 10A is a bit flat, so you'll have to do some minor catwalking, but the remainder of the run is absolutely gorgeous. Number 12 is another standout, and has a bunch of really fun rollers that are easy to air off. Number 9 is a bit narrower than the other runs, but is still an absolute blast. Number 11 is more of an alternative to 10A and helps to spread people out and cut down congestion in this popular area. These 2 lifts, Alpes-sur-Lay and Curtinella, are used to lap these 4 red runs. Both lifts are very new high-speed bubble lifts that provide extremely comfortable rides. Take Alp sur to lap number 9, number 10A, and number 11, and Curtinella to lap number 12 and a terrain park on the skier's right that doesn't appear on this map. That park appears on newer maps that you can't really find online, and it wasn't built during my visit, so be aware it may not be a priority or, for all I know, actually even exist. If you ski past these lifts, the only way down is via the number 10B and number 10C trails, which lead back to Surley and the bottom of the first tram. Coverage can get a little bare towards the bottom, but from my experience, both trails are still excellent and worth doing, while combining a trail from higher up in either pod. Just note that the intersection to continue on to number 10B happens above the lifts. It's pretty obvious and well marked, but make sure you don't ski down to these lifts if you're trying to get onto number 10B. Moving up to the top of the Curtinella, you can take this number 18 piece down to the Ragusa double lift. I don't find this piece that enjoyable to lap and mainly just use it as a means of transferring between mountain areas. This platter, adjacent to the Ragusa lift, serves this number 16 trail, which is fun but quite short. On the immediate skier's right of the trail, if it snowed recently, there can be some very nice off-piste, and you can always cut back onto the trail if things get sketchy. From the top station of this platter, you can also drop into number 19A to access the furthest looker's right part of the mountain. This first T-bar services number 19A and number 21. Both are decent lower cruisers, however, in the early season, only 19A will be groomed and number 21 will be designated as off-piste. During such times, number 21 can be home to some fantastic powder, even though it's right next to the lift. The second T-bar that goes up to Crap Milan only services this race course and this red number 22. I'm not too crazy about number 22 because it feels very short and is narrower because it shares the slope with the race course. Finally, this bubble quad, Furchelas, serves the upper part of the Furchelas side of the mountain. Number 19 is the easiest way down, but isn't my favorite because it gets a bit flat at some points. Number 13 is a really fun cruiser that offers fantastic views of the towering peaks above. However, if you follow it all the way down, it leads back to the Ragusa lift. Because of this, I prefer to bail onto the number 15 trail, which is equally fun, but leads back to the number 19A trail, which you can take to the bottom of the Furchelas lift. Finally, this number 20 is another very enjoyable cruiser. It does split into two paths further down, a red path and a black path. While the black path is a bit narrower and slightly steeper, they're quite similar. If you want to ski number 22 trail from the Furchelas lift, then 20A is how you get there. The red path of number 20 will skip the top portion of the number 22 trail, but is still pretty decent. The combination of number 20 to number 20A to number 22 is a great one. It's worth noting that just due to how rocky the terrain up here is, this lift isn't that high on the resort's priority openings list, especially in the early season, so get it when you can. If you're trying to get to the top of the Ragusa adjacent platter lift, officially named Margun, then you can take either this T-bar or the Furchelas lift, ski down number 19, and ride up this side of the platter lift. To be clear, the platter loads at both of these outer stations and unloads in both directions in the middle here. You don't ride it end to end. Finally, if you were to start your day at Furchelas, then similar to at Surley, you can take this tram to reach the two T-bars and the Furchelas lift. At the end of the day, you can either ride the tram down or ski down this number 23 trail to the base. This trail can get a bit icy towards the end of the day, but like its counterpart number 10C, conditions never seem to get too bad. Well, that's about it for Corvatsch. Check out part A and C now, all about Valletta, La Galbe, and Corviglia. As always, please leave any questions down below. If you enjoyed this video or found it helpful, please consider subscribing to help support this stream. Thank you all so much for watching. All my love, I'm out.